All right, the next thing that we're going to talk about here is how to perform a unit conversion. So for this section, we'll be doing this using two different methods. We're going to start off here with the best method, or the method most likely for you to get it correct, and then we'll move on to some other methods that may be more familiar to you. Now, the idea behind a unit conversion here is you have a quantity, such as in the middle of the screen there, 25 meters to the power of 2.5 divided by seconds squared, and you might be asked to express them using different units of measure. So you want to change that quantity into one that's expressed in terms of centimeters to the 2.5 divided by minutes squared. In order to do this, you'll see on the right-hand side of the screen conversion ratios for relating centimeters to meters and for relating seconds to minutes. Now, if you don't know what a particular unit is or how to convert it to another one, I recommend that you just look it up. Memorizing them in this day and age is kind of pointless, but you do need to be able to use them to convert your quantities. With that being said, we're going to go through how to do this using the first method, which involves algebraic substitution. Now, it's important for you to know how to do this because at the end of the day, if you want a real-world consequence for it, improperly performing unit conversions kills several thousand American citizens every single year, mostly through incorrect doses with respect to medicine. So we're going to walk through how to deal with this. The key skill here is actually being able to solve systems of equations, because these three things that you provided on the screen, the thing you're trying to convert and the unit conversion ratios, represent a system of equations. Now, in order to solve this using algebraic substitution, I recommend you go through the following process. The very first thing you're going to want to do is take a look at the quantity that you're trying to convert. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use a pair of brackets or parentheses and isolate the quantities or the units that you're going to convert. So we're going to be converting meters into centimeters. So we're going to want to isolate meters with a pair of braces. And we're going to want to convert seconds into minutes. So we're going to want to isolate seconds with a pair of parentheses. Make sure that you isolate just the quantity in question, not the exponent. And that would be the first step. Literally, we're just identifying what we want to replace. Now, the next step, we're going to actually start replacing them. So we're going to copy this down like so underneath it. And what we're going to do is we're going to switch out meters and seconds for what they're equivalent to. We'll start with the meters. If you look at the left-hand side of the right-hand side of the screen, you'll notice that we have a relationship that directly relates centimeters and meters together. Now, because we're going to be replacing meters, we need meters to be by itself on one side of this equation. So this equation that's now underlined in orange, you'll notice meters is equal to 100 centimeters. This equation, what it's basically saying is meters and 100 centimeters are exactly the same thing. So what we can do is we can replace the meters in our equation with 100 centimeters. All right, so having done so, what you'll see now appear is in the second line, or second middle line down, we simply replaced meters with 100 centimeters. We can do that because our conversion ratio tells us that meters and 100 centimeters are the same thing. Now, we're going to do the same thing with seconds. However, what you'll notice in the unit conversion that uses seconds and minutes is seconds is not by itself on that side of the equation. So what we need to do here is we need to rearrange this equation so that we have seconds by itself. We're going to do this, as always, by dividing each side by 60, because that's the coefficient that is currently with seconds. Now, on the left-hand side of this equation, the 60 will disappear, and on the right-hand side of the equation, we have 1 minute divided by 60. You can actually convert this to a decimal by simply taking 1, the implicit coefficient in front of the minute, and dividing it by 60. And 1 divided by 60 gives us 0.1 or 0.016 repeating minutes, or 0.017 minutes. Once we have this set up, we can do exactly what we did before. We now have an equation in which seconds is by itself on one side of the relationship, so we can replace in our original quantity here the seconds with the equivalent number of minutes. Now, with this in place, we actually have everything here in this second line down in the middle. So we'll highlight it here in green so you know which one I'm talking about, to basically calculate our quantity. Now, the trick to dealing with this is we did put these parentheses in, so we're going to need to remove them. What that means is every exponent that's outside of these pair of red parentheses is going to be applied to both terms that are inside the pair of brackets, like so. So your final or your second to last step would be to expand these brackets out. Right? And you'll see this expansion appear right below it. Now, the neat thing about this is this is basically going to tell us exactly what we need to do in order to get the number that we need. If you take a look at the units, they all have the correct exponents that we want in the correct order that we want. And if you take a look at the numbers, which I'll highlight here in red, not only do they tell you what you need to multiply and divide by, they tell you what exponents you need to apply to each number. And so what this basically means is you can evaluate them by taking a look at the number part and multiplying it and dividing it with the appropriate exponents in the exact order that you see it written here. So what we can do here is we can take 25, multiply it by 100 to the power of 2.5, and then we can divide that 0.017 to the power of 2. If you type this in on a calculator, it's very quick. You're going to type it in the exact order that you see it here, and it will give you the correct answer immediately. If you've done so, what you should receive is 8.65 thereabouts times 10 to the power of 9. All right, so this will give you the numeric part, which is typically speaking the hardest part to find. And as for the unit parts, well, they represent physical quantities. So there's not much you can do about them, except for leave them as they are. And that will perform your unit conversion every single time, no exceptions, doesn't matter what powers or anything you have associated with them.